Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast, your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and Jorge André.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Soft Bites podcast. My name is Manuela. I'm here with Jorge André. Welcome, André.
Hi, Manuela. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here for the second time. I'm starting to gain the taste of this.
We're going to. I always have fun, so it's a really nice feeling to be here. So today we're going to talk about the importance of good communication in a multidisciplinary team, and we're going to give you practical measures on how to achieve it. So basically, we are going to discuss how to be a better leader in a multidisciplinary team. And I would start by saying, if you didn't listen to our first episode, please do, because in that episode we talk about we discussed if all dentists are leaders or only the ones that own a practice. So if you are not a practice owner, please don't disconnect. Stay here with us. Because don't think that just because you are not a practice owner, if you are an associate, if you work for other colleagues, don't let that stop you from thinking that you don't have to have the abilities to be able to have good communication with your team, because that's not right. And of course, if you are a practice owner, you have more responsibility. But even if you are not a practice owner, as a dentist, it's also your responsibility to have a good communication with your team. So I invite every dentist to stay here with us and to hear us to talk and to bring some insights on how communication is so important in a dentistry practice. And André, I will start by asking you, because you are a practice owner of a multidisciplinary team.
Yes. And
tell me, what's the secret to have good communication in a multidisciplinary team in dentistry?
Well, first, let me tell you that I am a practice owner. Yes, I do lead, between commas, a multidisciplinary team. I have a general dentist, an endodontist, an implant surgeon, an orthodontist, and someone that does static operative dentistry as well. So I have 4 or 5 doctors that work with me. And just to make the context here, my goal was always to delegate as much work as possible. So I wanted to, I had some models. One of the biggest models that I had was Galip Gurel, that basically had a practice, an aesthetic-based practice, where he had many associates that would do I would say 80 to 90% of the work in the patient, and he would basically lead and coordinate the whole treatment. He was present. He always had the contact with the patient. In my practice, I wanted to have, I would say, even less, the ability to have even less contact with the patient. What does it mean? I would not mind that someone would go to my practice and do the initial examination and go between all the specialists and don't even see me even once to do the whole treatment. So what does it mean? It means that I want that my team has independence and autonomy treating a patient, which means that in my practice, there are people that can do the exact same work as me, and hopefully at the same level, at the same standard that I do. So I wanted to be irrelevant inside my practice. And it's always difficult because either I want it or not, people come to my practice a lot because of me. And it's that reason is one of the most frequent reasons that people come to my practice. But I also have patients now that come because of the system that is implemented. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think even in the last meeting that we have, I was talking about the importance of the system. I was telling them, look, people, they don't come here only because of me. They don't come here because of uterus, and they come because of a dental nurse that is very nice. They come here essentially, or they should come here essentially because of a system that takes place. Of course, that we are not robots, and people, they have human connections with us, but we want to have a system in place that the patients feel that it is something that makes sense for them. I mean, they get their problems sorted. It's a nice atmosphere. It's a stress-free atmosphere. There's efficiency. There's no delays, and I think that's one of I think that's the main reasons. That's one of the main reasons that people come to my practice now. But when I talk about the system, the most important thing that's behind the system is the communication. And communication is key not only for the system itself, because there are many communication microsystems within the big system, but also the communication is important to implement the system itself. What do I mean? I mean that the system of the practice, I mean the patient flow of the practice, the procedures of the practice, they need to be communicated to the team in a reciprocal way, which means that they have a very active role in the system creation. I mean, the system is not created by me. I give suggestions and they have to validate them. So the whole team has to validate them, because if they validate the system, they feel, of course, part of it. So communication as this component of creating the system. So we have to make meetings, we have to communicate within ourselves to create the system. And I would say that is the most important. That part is the most important, the number one part of the practice, which is how can we perfect the systems to work better and better and better. That's number one. And the other component is, okay, so the system is implemented, and a big part of the system is the micro communication within the system. And those two are the two biggest components when I think about communication within the practice, and those are very important. One is basically how can we implement the systems that we have created. And we have created those systems with good communication, of course. Mm-hmm. So those are the two biggest components. So I think that the number one secret is that we have to stop working and do meetings with all the staff to see what is the best system that we can implement. And then that is communication itself. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so the system is done. What's the best way to do the micro communications within this? So I think those are the two biggest components, and those are fundamental.
Before we get to the real part of communication, let me just ask you, because you said a very important thing about systems, and I'm sure we're going to have to talk about systems more in the podcast, probably an episode just about that. But in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with this, but in my opinion, if you have a system in place, that will allow you to have more time for the other part, for the connection. So what I mean is that because you said it in the beginning, so you said that when you start talking, you said it immediately. So if I have a system in place, of course, we are not robots, but we have to have the connection. But don't you think that if you have that system in place, and if the system is well communicated to everyone in the team, to the patients
Yes.
also, because like you said, then patients also look for the clinic because of that system, because they know what to expect.
Yes.
So there's this congruency of many factors, right? So the system allows that. Don't you think that saves you time and also gives you time for the other part, for the human part, for the connection part?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some reluctancy, especially in Latins, Portuguese and Spanish up to a point, in working with systems, because we have this tendency of freestyling everything, and we believe that once they give you a checklist or once they give you a decision tree, the sexiness of things just goes away. And I think it's actually the opposite, which is what you are saying. Let me give you an example. So just the system that we have. So if we have booked an implant treatment for someone, 1 week before they get in their email the recipe for the medicines, for the prescription for the medicines, the post-operative care, the mouth rinses, everything. So they get like 1 week before they get the package where everything is explained. So when they come to the practice, and also we have a confirmation if they have received it, and they have to say yes. Otherwise, we have to keep insisting because we want to make sure that the prescription arrives in time and they are aware of everything. So now the patient comes for the appointment for the treatment. It's a surgery, it's an implant, and the assistant asks, "Well, do you have any doubts regarding the post-operative care, the medication, prescription?" No, everything is fine. Okay, so we can start the surgery. And by the end of the surgery, where everybody is tired, including the patient, sometimes the patient is sedated, everything, after the surgery, the energy level must be very light and very positive and very, very, very happy, let's say, which would have never happened if by the end of the appointment, I had to say everything about the post-operative care and the prescription, or if I had to take care of the prescription now at this point, because I am tired, the patient is tired, and it's very stressful because you just want to relax, you just want to go to elsewhere, just want to maybe check your phone or something like that. And you have 10 minutes there that you are basically almost in agony, having to say the same thing over and over for every patient, and you are not connecting with them, which is exactly what you said. So the system allowed me, by the end of the surgery, to give a joke to the patient, to make it light, to make it happy, to make it positive. So it furthers the connection with the patient. So I think this is a perfect example of what you were saying.
Yeah, it is. And I totally agree with you. You know, that was one of the main differences that I found when I came to Belgium to work. So I started on this practice, and they had protocols for everything.
Yes.
So if you have a filling, this is the protocol.
Yes.
If you have because even the starter kit was different regarding the
procedure.
And I never had that in Portugal.
Yeah.
Right. So, and in the beginning I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
But the fact is that it makes your life so much easier. It makes everyone working with the same guidelines. It saves you a lot of time.
Yeah.
It gives you more time for the fun part of the job. And it makes all the sense.
But even though you were saying about Belgium, yes, it is true that we Latins we are more reluctant to that. But even in most developed countries, the level of protocolization in dentistry is actually very low. Still very low. There are some practices, yes, but it's still maybe in the US because it's very time-based.
I have my own opinion.
Yeah?
I have my own opinion about that. I think, and once again, it's because dentists don't have time.
Yes.
So you already have a full agenda with patients. You have to take care of assistants of this and that, and it's like you said, you had to take the time to do this, right? And if you want to have a system in place in your practice, if you want to implement protocols, if you want to make sure that everyone on your practice works based on those protocols, their work is based on that system, then you have the time. Then you have to have the time first to build the system,
of course,
because it's not like we can give a base for a system, and we are going to do that, for example, in our course.
Yes,
we can do that,
exactly.
But then you have to adapt it to yourself and to your practice,
yes.
because it's your own values.
Yes.
What my values are different from
Absolutely.
yours, so that system has to be based on your values and the values of your practice that you want your practice to show. But first you have to have the time to of course to build that system, and then you have to have the time to communicate it to you,
of course, to
the people that work with you. And you also have to be able, and this is very important, and this of course all takes time, because if you have a system in place, yes, then there will be certain people that will not fit on that system, yes, right? And that will make that very clear,
yes,
right? So, and to manage based on this, it's not easy. Yes. I mean, it's easy here when we are talking about it, but in practice, it's not easy. But this will also make it easier for you to choose your team, and yes, for you to choose the people that are working with you, because the ones that say, oh, no, you are crazy, I don't want to do this. Yeah. And if you ask that person, okay, but tell me why I'm crazy, bring your own ideas, bring your inputs. Of course. And if the answer is, no, that's not for me, it's for you, you are the practice owner, I'm not here for this, then you say, okay, so maybe you don't belong on this team, yeah, right? So this distinction very, very, very clear. To have a system in place makes your life easier, even on that way. But dentists need to have the time to build the system, and then to implement, and also to listen to people that are working with them, just like you said. And now we're going to get into communication. So it's not only you talking, right? Yes. You have to listen, yes, also. Yes. So how do you communicate this system, and how do you guarantee that you have a good communication in a multidisciplinary team? Because, and just before that, let me ask you, dentistry today, mm-hmm, it's multidisciplinary, yes, right? So you still have the small practice, yeah, with only one dentist, but yeah, I think that's nowadays it's already in extinction, don't you think?
Absolutely.
So?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are several factors because of that. And basically because there are some logical reasons why that is happening. First of all, we want to be more conservative even with the older patients, even the adult and older patients. We want to be as conservative as possible. And to be conservative, it means that you have to reconstruct a lot of things that before you wouldn't reconstruct, or you wouldn't care about. And sometimes, mm-hmm, you need not only to reconstruct things, but also you need to move around things. We are talking about teeth, of course. We are talking about the blend of restorative dentistry, orthodontics, periodontics, and implant surgery. So when you mix these three areas, which are in a way very different, when for example, you mix an orthodontist with an implant surgeon, there needs to be communication there. I mean, they cannot just talk by the phone. Oh, this is what you're going to do, this, and this. And then in the year or two, you are going to do this, and this, because after 1 month, you have no idea what you've talked on the phone with your colleague. So it's a recipe for disaster if communication is not prioritized.
So how do you guarantee a good communication in a multidisciplinary team?
So first of all, we have written protocols. We have, let's say, a book about the practice. So this is how the practice works. So whenever someone comes in, they have to read the book and they have to see us working for at least 1 month without touching it. Let's say there's a new associate coming in. So they have to see us work, or a new assistant. The assistant might eventually start to do some things, but she needs to observe for a full month. She needs to observe how we work, and she needs to read the book of how everything works. That's number one. Number two is regular meetings. How do we do the regular meetings? So I do the regular meetings with the team every 3 months with all the team. And now we used to do it in presence, in the premises after the work. But with the pandemic, we are doing it online. So it makes no sense why we haven't thought about this before. Of course, we do it online. We do it in Zoom meetings. We do with all the staff every 3 months. And I do with the nurses, with the dental nurses, every month. There is a morning where the practice used to completely close, and I would be myself there with the nurses and just taking care of things that need to be taken care every month, like small stuff, and hear their feedback. So one full morning per month. The practice used to close. Now it doesn't close because we have more staff, and there's always there can be a dentist that is working with a nurse. And the rest of the team is the rest of the dental nurses are meeting with me. Mm-hmm. So that is the basis. That is the real basis of everything. Okay. So from that, protocols come out, and for example, we talk a lot about in email, and even before the podcast, I was talking about a very interesting book. Mm-hmm. It's called Rework from Jason Friedman. Let me see if I'm not saying anything wrong. I think it's Jason Fried from 37 Signals, and they created the company called Basecamp. And the rework is basically a result of their experience in creating a company where the culture is basically to be very efficient. They don't want to grow excessively, and they want to have fun and have a good balance between what they want in life and their work. And one of the things that you were saying is that one of the biggest characteristics that the co-workers need to have in the company is the ability to have an optimized way of writing emails. Because sometimes, let's say you want to send an email to your colleague and say, look, let's say the orthodontist says, look, it's the time to place the implant, but there is this and that condition. Okay, there are two ways. You may call the surgeon. Oh, look, you have to do this, or you may eventually be in the same practice as the surgeon and find him in the interval of patients and say, look, you have to do this, and this, which that is the recipe for disaster. Or he can also say that, but that needs to be followed by an email in a very clear way, in a very objective way. Look, this patient is ready for this, and please take care of booking the next appointment where you will do this, and that. Okay. And if that email doesn't come out, what happens is that the implant surgeon may eventually forget what he talked in between patients, and in the next and maybe at the end of the day or in the next day, hopefully not during the family time, right? It's important. Mm-hmm. Maybe the next day he will look at the email and he will do what he's supposed to do. And I am very strict with that. I am very intransigent with that. I am very military with that, let's say. And the reason I do that is because I always tell them in the team, look, we have a lot of interesting cases for a very small practice in a very small town. We have very interesting cases. We have lots of multidisciplinary complex cases. And this does not happen by chance. It happens because you communicate very well between all of you. So we have to maintain this kind of level of communication. And I tell them, look, do you have any idea why it's so difficult to do these sorts of treatments? Do you have any idea why there are so many few people in the world that are actually capable of doing this? And it is because it's difficult to communicate. It's very difficult to communicate because many things can go wrong. Also, something that I haven't talked in the beginning was we are very detailed in the treatment plan of the patient. So the treatment plan that we present to the patient, of course, and you are aware of the software that I've developed, which is Make Me Clear, which is basically a software that lists and sequences all the treatment and makes groups. So this is the basic treatments. This is the treatments before ortho. These are the treatments after. These are the treatments, basic treatments, treatments before ortho, treatments during ortho, treatments after ortho, rehabilitation, option A, composites, option B, ceramics. So this is like the standard of interdisciplinary team. So basic treatments, treatments before ortho, treatments after ortho, treatments during ortho, final rehabilitation, maintenance. So that's all written down. So whenever someone in the team has a doubt of where the patient is in the treatment flow, we have it all written down. So we know exactly what is supposed to happen. So basically, the goal of the team is to make sure that what is written on the treatment plan is going to happen. Okay? And I make them accountable with that. So if they make a mistake, yes, I ticket them, I charge them financially, and we have. I think we'll have a podcast about that. And there are many nuances on that, but yes, I am very interested.
That would be on how you make sure that your system is working, that you can implement your system, and that's very, very important. And we will discuss that in another podcast.
But we use a lot to make it short. We use a lot of emails. Okay, so whenever someone needs to communicate something for a dental nurse or something for the lab, email is our preferred way, and we'll talk further why we don't use WhatsApp, of course. But email is our preferred way of communicating, and that works for patients, that works for labs, that works within the team. This does not mean that sometimes we don't have to complement it with talking, okay? But usually what we do is, if it's needed, we talk first, and then we send the email to make sure it's registered, because we want to track what is going on. And in these sorts of treatments, if there is one mistake, the patient gets forgotten, and it can happen. And it happened to us that the patient is waiting for our contact for a month, and it's completely forgotten. And that is easy to happen if you don't have a team that is really focused on responsible and accountable communication. So yes, we use a lot of email, and like I was saying of the Jason Friedman of the Rework book, it's very important that people that work with us understand the importance of written communication. This is really, really important. Okay, written communication it's important because it is what allows you to be in silence and communicating. There are some other trends. For example, you know that voice communication, like leaving WhatsApp messages, is a big trend as well. That's a big trend, and it makes sense now with Alexa that you just ask Alexa what you want. So voice communication is also important, but I think written communication is key, because written communication allows you to communicate in silence, which means that you can be in silence and communicating. And yes, voice, it's handier. It's handier to communicate in voice. Let's say let's place a voice message to the group, because of course we have a WhatsApp group in the practice, but we rarely use it unless it's for urgency or to reinforce something, because it's very difficult to search within the WhatsApp group. So yes, email is our preferred way of communicating, and we are very military in terms of making. Yes, we are very strict on that, and we are. I think that the team now understands the importance of that, and I think that when you see the results, when you realize, I'm actually doing what is my dream work in terms of, yes, I'm delivering to the patient what should be done in an interdisciplinary way, and this demands that I am strict with the communication. I think that's what everybody understands now. And in the beginning, it may be a little bit difficult because it's not a culture that it is implemented. So you have to send an email for this. Because it's very easy that someone says, "Well, why can't I just talk to you?" Right? I mean, you can talk to me. You can, of course, you can. But I have to make sure that I'm going to follow. So you told me that I often tell them, look, yes, you are telling me this, but make sure you send me an email regarding this. Make sure you do that. Okay.
You said many important things, because usually when we talk about communication with dentists, I usually have this response. I think they think it's just okay. Of course, we have to have clear communication.
Yeah.
They think, okay, we have to have clear communication. Okay, so and then I ask, so but how do you do that? How do you guarantee that? And this is where we are getting a little bit deeper on it, and I think it's very valuable what you just said. Communication and has to, especially in multidisciplinary teams, has to be written.
Yeah.
It's just not talking and listening. Of course, talking and listening is very important. You have to be able to have active listening mainly, and that's for the meetings, right? Either it's in person or Zoom meetings that, if you choose to do it that way, and meetings in the team are very important, and you should have time for that. They should be on your agenda. You should not do them after appointments when everyone is tired. So that's very important. But then to guarantee the clear communication, you have to have written communication. I made some notes here of what you were just saying. So number one, written communication. Because if you have doubts, if you want to know how is the case doing, if you want to know at what point you are, if you want to know if you have doubts of what he said about this one, is this was going to be ready, is the patient already scheduled, not, you just read what's written. And even let's forget about the complex cases, everything. Even if you are just in a practice working as a general dentist with other general dentists, your patients, if something happens and one patient of yours has to be seen by another colleague, and I had it. I don't know if you had it, but don't you have maybe not, you don't have it already, but I don't know if you remember in the past, if you work in other practices, to open a patient's chart and to have nothing written there. You just have filling of 36.
Yes.
Filling of 36.
Yes,
and then the patient comes with, and it's like, it's a respect. It's a respect. You should write the things on the chart. So written communication is very important in dentistry, and this is what I really want for the colleagues that are listening to take from here. When we are talking about communication, of course, it's clear communication, but it's also to be able to implement that clear. How do you implement that clear communication? You write things.
Yes,
you write things, and and this is very important, because many clinics, and you also said it, many clinics focus mostly on the technical competences of the dentist, right? But to be successful, and that's what you said, you have your practice and you are reaching this level of success, and because of the underlying competences, right, that make your practice run smoothly. It's because you work on the good communication, because you implement that good communication. So written. So where do you write? Of course, you already said it. You have the program, so the treatment plan is very clear. That's very the patient knows what's going to be done to the detail. All the colleagues know what's going to be done to the detail. So you have, of course, a program software in your practice. But then, if you need to communicate, you can do it verbally or by voice messages, like you said. But email, so email for you is critical. Where you write everything, because you can you can look for the information, right? You can trace the information, right?
Absolutely.
So it's easy for that.
So just a couple of things that you said. So yes, it's true. I was giving an example of a multidisciplinary team, but even if you are a general dentist, you need to have competence in writing things down. That's number one. Yeah, absolutely. Number two, you were saying, yes, do I consider myself successfully? I consider myself happy most of the vast majority of the time. And for me, that's success.
Successful, huh?
That's success for me, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the people that work with me, they've been working with me for many years. Most of them, when they had the opportunity to go elsewhere, the experience that they have elsewhere, and that's a conference, the experience that they have elsewhere are usually disappointing for them. So sometimes they prefer, for example, one of the guys that works with me, he started working 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And even in the first years that he started to work 2 days, he had more free time to go to work elsewhere. And he would prefer not to work elsewhere sometimes. Because when you raise the standard of communication, it's very difficult to tolerate other stuff. Because everything else becomes very difficult. And the example that you said is exactly that. You open a file, there's nothing written down. So, by the way, I have a fine for that. I ticket them when they do that, of course. But yeah, success. Well, do I? When I say that I am successful, and when you also say that I am successful, it's important that our listeners understand that success. This is the success that I want for myself, right?
Mm-hmm. It's very personal.
Which is very different. So I am happy and thrilled, and I am happy to share with people what I do, because what I do makes me happy. And for me, that's success, right? So if you do something, you are happy with it, and you feel thrilled to share it, even if it may be pathetic for some people. For me, that's success. So this is working for me. And I think it can help vast majority of people. So yes, in that sense, we are a small practice. We have 3-4 dental chairs. We are in a small town, in the 3rd floor of a building, and it's very rewarding that we have quite a few patients referred from dentists, and we have a lot of people that come and understand the importance of interdisciplinary treatments. But they don't only come; they don't come specifically for that. Is that our system identifies treatments and needs that the patient has, and they need to be done in a multidisciplinary way. So I don't have patients that come over and say, look, I want to do a complex 3-year multidisciplinary treatment. No, we identify them and we propose them. And because we propose them in such a way, we present the treatment in such a way, they accept it. And then you said, well, you have that problem, make me clear. But I also tell all the dentists, look, you don't have to have my program. You don't have to have it. That is just a detail. What you need to do is that you need to have a system where you generate a treatment plan that is detailed. And you can do that in a Word file. You can do, of course, that Make Me Clear gives a more fancy, more elegant look to the document. But you can do that. You can even have a screenshot of your chart of the before, of the plan. You just place in the Word document and you just list things. This will be done by this. So, and it's very important to group treatments. So basic treatments, before ortho, after ortho, before implant, after, so that the patient understands that there are stages, okay? And that also that treatment plan also helps the patient to understand the sequences, but it helps the dentist and the dental team to understand where the patient is at this point in time. So once that is done, and let me search for an example of an email, for example, that I sent to my colleagues. Let me translate. So, for example, let me just translate. For you to take a look at how detailed I am regarding this patient, regarding some patients. So, for example, we have here, for example, okay, so I just sent Katia this patient. So you are going to send to this email, which is the lab email, the link with the scans. You are going to ask to print both models. In those models, you are going to ask the assistants to do mouth guards. Then you are going to do a walks-up. Then the patient is going to do, because the patient is not from nearby, you have to send that the bleaching trays for the patient to do them for 3 weeks. Then there is a week that the patient needs to stop. And then you are going to schedule your treatment of a full morning with the patient to do the composites. After that is done, you just send me an email to say that is ready so that I can send the referral dentist to that the patient is ready to start the ortho, because this was a case where the patient was referred by an orthodontist. Mm-hmm. So there are very clear steps. You're going to do this, and this. Okay? So this really needs to be very clear. And if something fails, yes, of course, there's evidence that they failed, of course. And I think that that's very different from using WhatsApp. And I think that I can even show you here something interesting, which is something that you sent me.
From Adam Grant.
Yeah, from Adam Grant. I'm just going to share my screen. And when you sent me this, I really found this interesting because there's a lot of people that can have this reaction, which is, okay, why don't you use WhatsApp, right? So this is very interesting. So there's someone says, well, why do you always send an email? And the other guy says, and they say, well, why don't you try chat? It's much faster. And the guy that is sending emails says, well, chat is indeed faster, but email creates evidence. So this is very interesting. And then Adam Grant has a commentary on this picture that says that I don't want to use it against you. I just like to be able to search it for later. So this is quite perverse. So I don't want to use it against you. Of course, I want to use it against you afterwards, because if you don't follow it, I will use it against you. But yes, this completely explains why we use email,
it's to create accountability also, right? So it's not to use it against you, but it's to create accountability to be for everyone to know what is expected. So what is expected to be done, right?
Yeah, but did you notice that I was really specific? So you have to do this, and this, because this was a patient that I was coordinating, because I received it from an orthodontist. But they may need to do this exact thing to some other colleagues within the team. So also you are giving an example of how things should be done and details how things should be done. We can also, and when we talk about communication, for example, for lab communication, I have these 3 principles. So there are also rules for communication, and these 3 principles are: it has to be written, like you said. You need to be specific and objective, and ideally, you should use templates. So when you send the lab email, there's a template that says, well, this is the patient name, this is what we are going to ask, this is the patient code, this is the date for delivery. So you just copy paste that and you use that for communication with the lab. And sometimes for some procedures, we need to add some images, templates. Sorry to interrupt you again.
No. That's very important what you said, templates. Yeah. That was going to say that you can do it, because I think that in the beginning, dentists are a little bit afraid of they feel overwhelmed because it's new, just like you were saying. My experience that the majority of practices don't have a system in place, don't have a protocol. Yeah, because they don't have time. And when when we are talking about all of these things, I think that if you don't practice it, you feel overwhelmed and then you don't do it. But the first thing we can help with that in our course, we're going to give this templates, for example. But once you have the templates in place, then you can just write the specific things of the case, because you don't have to worry about building an whole email. You don't have to worry about building a whole written thing. I think that overwhelming of all of this, if you don't practice, scares some dentists. But what you just said is very, 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 very important. To have everything in written by email, or if it's not by email, nowadays there are other apps that which you can communicate by written, that you can trace and then track, and to be as specific as you can. Send images, send pictures, send everything that you think it's going to add value to the communication. And then you can build templates, and you can have templates and adapt them to yourself and to the information that you need to give. And this will make things simpler. So just for the ones that are listening to us, don't feel overwhelmed or scared or think that this is a lot of work. Because, of course, in the beginning, you have to implement, but it can be done in a simple way, and it will make your life much easier. During your days, it will make your days much easier. It will make your communication much clearer and much, and things will flow in a different way.
Yeah, and I think it's also the thing that we are talking in the beginning, to implement the culture of rigorous communication, and they have to understand you cannot allow the team to start seeing that as a controlling way, So basically the team needs to understand that this policy of communication is for their own good, and it is because of that they have more patience and that they have more free time. Also, just a couple of rules. I don't know if I have some tweaks in communication. I don't know if you use them. So let's say, for example, I'm going to ask you, let's say you want to send me an email, right? But it's late or it's Sunday, but you are afraid to forget it. Okay. So on the one hand, you don't want me to bother, or also you don't want me to think that I see you working on weekends, which is also a valid argument. Okay, so you either don't want me to bother, you don't want me to think that you are that you work on weekends, but there's some idea that you want to communicate. So I'm going to tell you what I do. Let me. So what do you do? Do you write it down? Do you make it on tasks? Or do you send it?
I usually do one of two things. And this is depending on the person,
of course,
to whom the email is. But usually what I do is I write the email, and on the email I say, sorry, I know it's Sunday, please just get back to me tomorrow during your work hours. And if it's someone that I don't have much confidence, we were just talking about that I have to email a person, and I say, but today is a holiday because we are recording this on a holiday. I will email him tomorrow morning. So if it's someone that I don't have that much confidence, I write the email, but I put it immediately on my Google Calendar to send it immediately in the morning. But the email is already written. So I write it immediately because I'm having the idea and I know what I want. But that email goes scheduled to be sent only tomorrow morning. So that's my two approaches, depending on the person.
Yeah. So, but so basically, you just write it, you schedule it, and you forget it. You don't have to go there in the morning.
I forget about it.
That's what I do.
I scheduled. Or if I have confidence with the person, I send it immediately. But I make a note to say, sorry, I know it's Sunday. Please only reply tomorrow when you are working.
Yeah, but I schedule them a lot, and this is something before Gmail had this possibility of scheduling emails. I used to use Boomerang, which is a paid app, but now Gmail you can just schedule and send it whenever you want, and I think it's one of the most fantastic tools on email is just make sure it's delivered when you want to. It's very interesting. And there are many people that are not aware of that, but you can schedule. I'm a big fan of Gmail, by the way, of Google. And because it's very functional. It's not fancy, but it's very functional. And it's a very good way of doing that. Another trick that I have, and I can show you my inbox for you to see, which is I parallel with the email, I always have my Google Task. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You see?
Yeah.
I always have here. So if for example, if this email here of Uber Eats, let's say if it is important, I don't want to miss it, I just add it to Google Tasks and it goes to the tasks here. Okay. And I also have this app on my cell phone and everything. So this is my to-do list, let's say it. Because of course we get a lot of emails every day, but not all of them are important, of course. And I always pass the important stuff. And whenever I'm in the street or someone else, I remember something. Look, this is important. I just go to the Google Tasks and just write it down. So when I open my email in my desktop, it's always there. So this small tweak has allowed me to organize myself much clearly, because then I have my to-do list and I can just and it's exactly side by side by my email. But but email is a big thing for me. And you were also saying some other apps. Well, it's true. You can also use some other apps. But I just want to make it old school email, because if the other apps just gets out of use or something, well, email, I think you keep it simple. And we use a lot of Dropbox, of course, and we share a lot of links of Dropbox, because we have a Dropbox of the practice that everybody gets access to. So everything that is done in the practice is on Dropbox. So every image, every CBCT, every treatment plan of the patient is on the Dropbox. And also we have an app of our charting software. So at home, every dentist that works with me has the complete access to the patient file and to the patient's images. So this is also very important, because otherwise it's impossible to work this way. So yes, they have complete access to the patient information and files from home, which is, I think, it's very important. And not all the dental softwares, because like I was saying, Make Me Clear is a standalone software only for treatment presentation. It just generates a PDF. Okay? But I also have, and most practices have, a dental charting software that manages the practice and generates the receipts and charts the patient, and you write down the details of what you have used. And we have a program that we can access remotely from an app in our cell phone. So if I send Katia or if I send Luis something about the patient, they can go and see the treatment sequence that the patient is doing. Yeah, this is also important.
Yeah. That's very good. That's very good tips. And so I think that we establish here that for a good communication in a multidisciplinary team, you need to have written communication.
Of course.
You need to write everything to detail. The whole team needs to have access to that team. You need to find what works for you. If it's email, like you said, it's simpler. I also work with email. But you need to have written communication. You can have templates for that. You can start with the templates and then add your information. And all the teams should work based on this guidelines, knowing that everything that you do should be written, and then you be held accountable, of course, and then you have to deliver.
Of course.
And then you have to deliver.
Of course.
And that's the technical part, and that's super important also.
Yeah, WhatsApp will not replace email. Email. So even if I say something to my dental technician, look, I want you to do this, and I can eventually send that by WhatsApp, I also always make sure that the same information follows by email. That's true.
Basically, if it's not written, it doesn't exist.
Absolutely. If it's not written, it doesn't. I think that's a very good way to end this episode. If it's not written, it doesn't exist. It's true.
It doesn't exist. And when we are talking about dentistry, which we know it's very complex, and that's why it can be very stressful. If everything works good, then everyone is happy, right? Right. But as we know, dentistry has many things where things cannot go according to plan. And that's not your fault, and it can happen, right? So if we are able, and I say this all the time when I give my stress reduction courses to dentists, stress reduction in dentistry is about eliminating what can cause you stress. Right? So that's as simple as that. And one of the ways is for you to be able to have predictable work. And I know this sounds boring. Again. I know this sounds boring because, and I watch this all the time. The dentists like the part where they are working in flow in the mouth of the patient. That's when they are, when they feel that they are performing, right? And all the other part, okay, it's not that fun. But and you just show me a video just early on that if you don't take care of the aspects that they are not so fun, those are going to be the ones that are going to rule your day. So stress reduction in dentistry is all about reducing those parts that are not so fun. And if you are able to have this clear communication, and again, clear communication is something that we need to have clear communication, but it's very important for you to know how to do it. And written communication is the base of that. Meetings are very important. You should have regular meetings with all your staff, with just the nurses, with everyone together. Everyone should bring inputs. Everyone should say exactly what's on their mind so that there are no cross conversations, etc. That's very important also, of course. And I think that's something that nowadays clinics have. There's already this culture of meetings, of staff, which is nice,
and especially online. Online, you can do a lot of stuff online.
And again, when we are going to talk about systems and protocols, we are going to talk about the importance of listening to your team, and it's not you building, it's the team that has to build it. But written communication, clear written communication with details, to have a system in place, to have templates, that's very important. And it is really what will bring the stress reduction part to your practice.
Yes. I would say that discipline equals freedom. I don't know exactly where I've heard this from, but I hope in the next episode to say you exactly. I think it's from Jocko Willco, but discipline does equal freedom. So what do I mean by discipline? To make sure you find time in your schedule to implement systems and those will allow you the freedom that you want. So yes, discipline to make sure that you are making a system that makes sense. Discipline is what will bring you freedom. But I think that's like everything in life. You have to earn your freedom. You have to earn your good times. Actually, because if you earn them, if you work hard for you to be happier, to have more free time, that moment will actually be better to you. You'll feel it more because you've worked for that.
And what we are talking here, it's basically principles that we apply also in our life, right? We are adapting them to dentistry,
of course.
But it's something that we apply into our lives. And when we are a dentist, dentistry is a big part of your life.
Course.
So, and that's why I love this concept of adapting all these concepts and all the skills to dentistry to make your practice a little bit more ease, a little bit more fun.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
And because and when I was saying that dentists like the part when they are working on flow on the patient's mouth, what I see is that most of them are not even getting that fun part, because when they are working on the patient mouth, then they are worried about the details.
Yes.
Oh, I still have to do, in the end, like you said, just like you said on the implants case, that you have the protocol of sending the prescription, and that the patient already know by written everything that is going to happen after, etc. If you are doing the procedure, and if you are, but I cannot forget to tell him to this and that.
Of course. It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's it. So if you are able to take care of all these little details that are not little, that are a big part of your dentistry practice also, if you have all of that running smoothly, then you are really going to be able to be present to what you are doing, and to be able to notice the little details and the little joys of your work.
And enjoy your life, and enjoy your work, and have fun, because you have to make sure you remind yourself to have fun throughout the day, because otherwise this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to make any money or to bring any team together if it doesn't bring something else besides money. It has to bring something else more than money.
Yeah, just to finish, I remember something that just came to my mind, what you said. One, I think, in my opinion, a very important benefit of good communication, of clear communication, written communication in a multidisciplinary team in dentistry is the autonomy of the dentist.
Yeah.
You know, so if there is this clear communication, and if there is accountability, then the dentist will feel like they have the ability to be the primary decision maker on their work.
Yes.
You know, they have the freedom to perform their work. And I think that it's a great motivation to do the work,
because they feel they matter.
Well.
They feel they matter.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, I just wanted to add that, but it's already getting long. Let's just remind that we're going to have our course in conscious leadership in dentistry next year, days 3, 4, and 5 of March. In this beautiful place in the south of Portugal, in Algarve, in Sagres, and where we are going to give all of this tools, to all of this templates, all of this step-by-step, how you can implement this strategies, if you want to call it strategies, on your practice.
It will be very interesting because we'll make it very interactive. We'll talk about the things. I will talk about my experience. Manuel will talk about her experience because she has quite a significant experience in understanding most of the dentists' struggles. And we'll talk about the things that can go right. We'll talk about things that we have done wrong. And I really wish that I had something like that when I was starting to open a practice, or in the moments that I felt more unhappy. Because I had to, I was lucky as well, because I find some people that guide me through, but I really wish that I had something like this that 10 or 20 years ago wasn't really available. So I'm really looking forward for that. And I think we'll have a lot of fun doing it. I'm 100% sure it will be, we'll have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. And I'm going to end the way that I started, just to remind everyone that it's not only for practice owners, it's for every dentist. So we are trying to bring all this skills
and
to every dentist.
Yeah, and for practice owners, for people that are thinking to be practice owners, and also for people that are 100% sure they will never want to be practice owners. I think for all of the three of these groups.
Yeah. And it's interesting. That was always my case. It was the only thing that I was sure when I finished my course in dentistry was that I was 100% sure that I was not ever going to be a practice owner. I knew it in my heart, in my soul.
It's interesting.
In every cell of my body that I was never made to be a practice owner for all the love that I have for dentistry, and I maintain that until now. And it's not, and that's why I say this again, that all dentists are leaders, and it's just not because of that you don't need all these abilities, all these skills. Okay, so we're going to finish. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us. It was a real pleasure. It's always a pleasure to speak with André. I hope you.
Thank you, Manuela. Same here. Same here.
Yeah, I hope that everyone that is listening also feels the same. And we'll be back with the third episode very soon.
Yes. Bye, Manuela. Take care.
Bye, André.
See you soon.
Thank you.